Have you ever noticed how a room can be full of words and still feel completely empty? Someone asks what you do. Someone jokes about the weather. Someone says, "Any plans this weekend?" And somehow, after 3 minutes of perfectly normal conversation, you already feel tired. Not angry, not superior, not antisocial, just tired. And that matters, because a lot of people misunderstand this. They assume if you dislike small talk, you must be awkward, cold, or emotionally distant. But what if none of that is true? What if the real reason you pull away from surface-level conversation is because your mind is built to look for something more meaningful than most everyday exchanges ever offer? For some people, casual conversation feels easy. For others, it feels like chewing air. The words are there, the smiles are there, the script is there, but nothing real is happening. And when that happens often enough, you start wondering if something is wrong with you. It isn't. In many cases, your mind is not rejecting people. It is rejecting emptiness. Some research suggests that certain people have a stronger preference for effortful thinking, reflection, and meaning-making. They do not just want to exchange words. They want to understand what is behind the words. That is why small talk can feel so unsatisfying. It gives you contact without connection, noise without substance, presence without depth. It is like being handed a beautifully wrapped box with nothing inside. And if that image hits hard, there is a reason. A quiet mind is usually not an empty mind. It is often a crowded one. It is observing, translating, comparing, predicting, reading tone, reading timing, reading intention. While other people are simply talking, you may be scanning. What does that expression mean? Did that pause mean discomfort? Should I respond here or wait? Do they want honesty or politeness? Am I supposed to keep this light or go somewhere real? So by the time the conversation is still warming up for them, your mind is already on its second lap. That is why small talk can be draining in a way most people never understand. Not because you cannot do it, because you do too much of it internally. You are not only speaking, you are processing. And that processing comes with a cost. For one group of people, the problem is depth. They do not hate conversation. They hate conversations that never go anywhere. They can talk for hours about fear, purpose, memory, healing, ambition, loneliness, identity, faith, regret, human nature. But ask them to keep bouncing around safe little social scripts, and their energy disappears. Not because they are difficult, because their mind needs substance to stay engaged. For the second group, the problem is overload. Small talk looks simple from the outside, but inside it feels like 10 tabs open at once. Facial expressions, social timing, tone, politeness, self-monitoring, guessing what the other person expects, making sure nothing comes out wrong. That kind of interaction can feel like doing mental math while smiling. And after enough of that, silence does not feel awkward. It feels like relief. For the third group, the problem is honesty. This one runs deeper than boredom and deeper than exhaustion. Because for some people, surface conversation feels fake. How are you? Good, even when you are not. Busy week? Yeah, not too bad. Even when your mind is carrying 10 things at once. And after a while, that disconnect starts to sting. Not because you expect strangers to hear your life story, but because repeating socially approved versions of yourself can feel like slowly drifting away from what is real. That is why some people would rather say very little than keep performing a version of themselves that feels edited, polished, and emotionally untrue. So if small talk leaves you cold, there are usually 3 possibilities. You crave depth, you experience overload, or you feel allergic to anything that sounds emotionally fake. And sometimes, if we are honest, it is a mix of all 3. But here is where this gets important. Disliking small talk is not always the same as disliking people. Sometimes it means you want connection that feels earned. Sometimes it means your energy is limited and you do not want to waste it. Sometimes it means your nervous system does not trust shallow social performance. And sometimes it means you have spent so much of your life reading the room that your mind no longer relaxes just because the conversation sounds friendly. That is not a character flaw. That is information. Still, there is one uncomfortable question worth asking. Do you avoid shallow conversation because you want depth, or because depth scares you too? That question changes everything. Because some people truly need meaningful connection, and some people use "I hate small talk" as a shield that keeps everyone at a safe distance. The two can look the same from the outside. Both avoid casual chatting. Both prefer silence. Both feel drained by empty conversation. But only one of them is protecting peace. The other may be protecting fear. And if that hits a nerve, good. Because self-awareness is where better relationships start. You do not have to become the most outgoing person in the room. You do not have to learn to love random conversations in elevators. You do not have to force yourself into a personality that does not fit. But it helps to know how to move through the world without feeling trapped by it. So here are 3 healthier ways to handle small talk without betraying yourself. First, stop trying to win the whole conversation. Most socially draining interactions become exhausting because you think you have to carry them perfectly. You do not. You are allowed to be warm without being performative. You are allowed to answer simply. You are allowed to leave space. You are allowed to let a conversation be small without letting it consume you. Second, learn the bridge question. If you hate staying on the surface, do not just endure the script. Gently redirect it. Instead of, "How's work?" try, "What part of your work do you actually enjoy?" Instead of, "Any plans this weekend?" Try, "What do you usually do when you need to reset?" Instead of, "How have you been?" Try, "What's been taking up most of your mind lately?" Those questions are simple, but they open doors. You do not have to jump from weather talk to childhood trauma. You just need one question that invites something more real. Third, respect your silence, but do not hide inside it. Silence can be wisdom. Silence can be regulation. Silence can be peace. But silence can also become armor. The difference is intention. Are you quiet because you are grounded, or quiet because you are bracing? One brings calm. The other keeps loneliness alive. And that distinction matters more than most people realize, because the goal is not to become louder. The goal is to become more honest about what your quietness actually means. Here is the truth most people miss. People who dislike small talk are not necessarily detached. In many cases, they care too much to keep living on the surface. They want conversations with weight, friendships with texture, moments that do not feel pre-packaged. They would rather have one real exchange than 20 polished ones. That is not arrogance. That is emotional precision. And yes, it can make the modern social world feel exhausting, because so much of daily life runs on scripts, speed, and low-risk interaction. But your need for depth is not a weakness. It is a signal. It means your mind is tuned to meaning. It means your energy is valuable. It means you should be careful who gets access to your attention. And no, that does not mean every shallow conversation is pointless. Sometimes small talk is just a doorway, a social warm-up, a gentle way in. The mistake is not small talk itself. The mistake is staying there forever. So if you have always felt strange for pulling back from surface-level conversation, hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are not rude. You are not too much. And you are not bad at being human. You may simply be someone who comes alive when a conversation becomes real. Someone who would rather sit in honest silence than trade polished emptiness. Someone who is not interested in sounding impressive, only in feeling sincere. Someone who does not